welcome you to our presentation of Driving Corporate Digital Signage the Ingram Micro Way. Before we get started, I would like to announce that this event is being recorded. And if you would all put your phones on mute, we will open up those lines at the end. We'll have questions at the end of the presentation. We will be taking your questions then, and I will announce the winner of the $100 Amazon gift card. And you can also submit your questions at any time during the presentation using the Q&A box on your screen. Now I would like to introduce Tom Jones, Senior Technology Solutions Engineer. Over to you, Tom.
Oh, thank you. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on our webinar today. We've got a very unique slide deck in line for you today because it's not your atypical PowerPoint. And what I mean by that is that you're going to have a behind-the-scenes look of as Ingram Micro revamped its digital signage initiative and program. You're going to get a behind-the-scenes look of actually what it took. Another unique aspect is that it's not just from one perspective. Anytime that you have a campus rollout of this magnitude, you have multiple players and multiple moving parts. So what we've done is that we've assembled the core team of individuals that really led and guided this project. So that would be Mark Brzezinski, Kristen Gibzowski, and myself. And what we're going to do is we're going to give you a behind-the-scenes look from each of our perspectives, from the technology perspective, what went into looking at some of the hardware, why we even wanted to revamp digital signage in the first place, from the project management standpoint. You know, what was involved of rolling out a project of this magnitude? What are some of the pieces and parts, but more importantly, what are some of the players and some of the scope of project and scope of work that was necessary. And then finally, we're going to talk to Kristen, and Kristen's going to give us some insight from the marketing angle. So we have the hardware, we have the project management, and then marketing. What was their role? What did they have to consider when they're literally rolling out an entirely new process? And at the end, we're going to tie it all up in a neat bow, and we're going to show you what the net end result was. So kind of let's get kicked off. For my part, I'm going to talk about the background. So in other words, I'm going to give you a review for those of you that weren't there of what digital signage used to look like at Ingram Micro. And it definitely wasn't a pretty picture. How we identified the bigger, longer-term opportunities. I'm going to give you some examples. And then longer term, how do we fix the problem that was existing? What was our plan? Then I'm going to hand it over to Mark, who's going to talk about the project scope and how we made a business case for this to our leadership. You know, what were some of the benefits that were going to happen to not only our resellers, but how about some of our vendors that advertised on digital signage and our internal associates? What was the benefit going to be to them? And then we're going to talk a little bit about the installation and the scope of the project. And then Kristen's going to talk about marketing's role, not only at the pre-launch, before everything happened, what happened during the launch, and then what subsequently happened after the launch. And then again, we're going to tie it all together with a bow and show you some pictures, and we're going to open it up for questions. All of you that are on this webinar understand who Ingram Micro is. So we are the world's largest distributor of IT and IT-related products. You know, and we pride ourselves in being the best way to get technology from the people who make it to the people who use it. But in 2013, only a few years ago, we had a very big issue with communicating some of that information out internally to our associates, helping our vendors get strong, clear, concise messaging out, and then longer term, just having a bad image with digital signage. You know, the opportunity was the digital signage in our campus in 2013, it was completely unacceptable. It conveyed a poor image. The technology was a hodgepodge where we had different monitors from different vendors. We had different infrastructure. We had different software running at times. And that happened because we all know that digital signage was an emerging technology and continues to be. And what we did is we inadvertently allowed people to run their own camp of digital signage. We had no uniformity. So the sales team may have one aspect of digital signage, and then tech support may have something subsequently different. It was literally a hodgepodge put together, and what the net result of that was, you know, nothing worked in uniformity. Because of that, you know, a majority of the displays subsequently stopped working. Nobody took ownership. There was no concise way to plan for planned outages. We also discovered that there was a huge marketing revenue opportunity here that was subsequently being missed out. Vendors wanted to... Hello. Hey, we're going to ask that everyone puts their call on mute.
Really?
We're also seeing that vendors, they really weren't compelled to purchase anything from a marketing standpoint. So with lots of screens that were going down, inconsistent messaging, nobody wanted to invest in marketing from the digital signage end. Literally, what they would do in some cases, they would take matters into their own hands. They'd put banners up that would literally be all over the campus, and sometimes they'd print their own. And, that definitely didn't adhere up to corporate standards. I wanted to show you a couple of examples of what that really meant in the longer term. So if you look in your upper left, that's outside of one of our training rooms, and that was a vendor-donated monitor, as well as the rest of the units you see there. Well, the kicker was these monitors, we literally took them, and this was not planned at any point in time. There was literally no content on them. So what we were saying that manufacturer-sponsored monitors, the digital signage, had no relevant content, no content at all. There was a mismatch of monitors. So if you look in the lower left-hand corner, that was a different manufacturer. So when content did go out, resolutions didn't match up. So content subsequently looked awful. So net was we ultimately had to figure out a plan on how do we regain and rope back in our digital signage, but more importantly, make it cutting edge, making it meaningful. How do we ultimately fix the problem that manifested itself over literally 2 or 3 years? And our approach was we decided to get a crack team to take ownership. What we discovered, even in a wider campus of this nature, getting the right people that were not only nimble, they were vested. They understood and they seen the problem that existed with digital signage. And they were just as anxious to get it fixed as anyone else in the company was. Not to mention, we were all very committed to the project. We all had day jobs. So taking on a project of this magnitude, we had to have commitment from everyone that was going to be part of this project. And subsequently, this core team of individuals, we had to identify the needs. And what we did throughout the scope of work is we had to do walkthroughs. We did site surveys. We looked at all of the different locations digital signage was at that point, what made sense to remove, what made sense to add. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more later on. And ultimately, we decided that we were going to redefine what digital signage meant in the Buffalo campus. The lowest hanging fruit was putting up state-of-the-art displays. So cutting-edge LED displays throughout the campus in key areas. That was the low-hanging fruit. We identified that we had an awesome opportunity to add a little glitz and a little glamour to the project. So we consulted and we decided that we were going to start to add video walls as well. And we were going to strategically put those at our entrances so they would have the most impact to people that were ultimately visiting our campus. And to top it off, we felt that touch displays were clearly becoming the norm. Interactivity was becoming the norm for digital signage as a whole, and we were going to capitalize on that. So we decided that we were going to put touch displays in all of the cafeterias, and not only the Buffalo, and this as the project developed, in Santa Ana as well. Anytime that you start a project of this magnitude, you have to be very clear on what you accomplish. You have to identify the need. So part of the need that we said is that we wanted to create a compelling medium for our vendors to communicate with Ingram Micro Associates. So it was going to act as a communication tool. Through that process, we knew that we were going to increase marketing revenue because we knew if we had a straight, direct method to communicate to associates, the vendors and the rest of the community would be all over it. And we understood that. Also, what we decided is that since there were some ad hoc paper ads, we wanted to make sure everything was unified. It ultimately went through marketing. And if marketing deduct that there were paper ads that were going to exist, they would ultimately make that call. But we were going to get rid of the days where vendors could come in and put up their own marketing collateral banner just to do it. So we were going to wean them off of that. In addition, we understood that the content had to be clear, relevant, and timely. In other words, it didn't necessarily have to be always a marketing medium. We understood that the associates wanted to see information from human resources, health and wellness, and even some personalized information. So our plan was going to be just not make one blanket message to every area of Ingram Micro. There were going to be messages that were going to be appropriate to visitors that were going to come in, but they were into the doors. But we also knew that targeted information to sales teams, to specific branches, that was going to be relevant. And occasionally, leaders are going to want to put information in their zone, in their area that's appropriate. In other words, if somebody hits $1 million sale, they want to advocate that. They want to tell people that, spread that news. So we felt that there's targeted messages within internal zones, as well as company-wide information was going to be very critical and a key part of this rollout. But arguably one of the most important pieces is that we had to set the example. Ingram Micro in the Pro AV, we were, the Pro AV digital signage division. And we decided that we were going to set the standard and take it upon ourselves to do that. So we were going to redefine what digital signage meant, and we were going to set the goals. So I'm going to give you a little peek behind the scenes. So what were some of the things that we did in logistics and planning? Well, whenever you do a project of this scale, you have to think about who else is this signage going to impact. So we couldn't develop this project in a silo. In other words, 4 people, 5 people define it, roll it out for the company, and then that's the end of it. We absolutely engaged with leadership throughout the company, and that was top down. So we heard very clearly from C-level executives what they wanted to see in digital signage. We drove that back down to sales directors, to technical support directors. And we got a really good feeling of what we needed to execute on, which modified our plans longer term. From the logistics standpoint, since Ingram, we're top and best in class in almost everything, we decided internally that we were going to do the screen installs themselves, which is an amazing accomplishment. Traditionally, when you think about facilities teams, they don't hang and bang screens. They don't rip and replace screens. And when we pitched it, subsequently we found out that facilities they were fully on board with that. And the reason why they were comfortable with that is because they had already had previous experience in hanging screens. So our team knew better than anyone else where were the right places to put them, where were the data drops throughout the facility, where couldn't we hang something because of codes, so fire code.
Area kind of not.
And we're going to ask that everybody mutes their phone. So our team clearly understood what they had. We also understood that there was power drops that we needed to have replaced, and we outsourced that. So longer term, we worked with external contractors to drop power in the necessary places. And one of the biggest things that we had is a timetable that we had to stick to. So we decided that all of this work was going to be done concurrently. As we started ripping down screens, we had electricians shortly in after to put the wiring. The next part, we had to select the hardware and the software partners that were ultimately going to help, partner with us to make this project a success. And the truth is, we couldn't have done it without these partners because they had to have not only a high level of expertise in their particular area, they had to give us more than parts and pieces. We had an entire gambit of vendors that we could have gone with, but we looked at people that were going to be partners longer term. So some of those partners, these are the guys that help provide the nuts and bolts ultimately to these to our campus. You know, we look to NEC as our primary display partner, and we really clearly understood what their roadmap looked like for digital signage. Because again, we were talking 2013 at the time. We discussed how are we going to do this implementation. So we needed partners that were willing to share what was going to come down their pipeline. So we decided to go with NEC for our partners, and we looked at about 34 monitors individually, which means one-to-one signage, and then another 16 monitors for our video walls throughout the campus, 2x2 video walls. We looked to BS Networks for our media players, but they provided more than media players. BS Networks, while they gave us the media players, they gave us insight and they helped support us from a content management standpoint, which meant as we knew that our digital signage needs would ramp up and we would have to distribute content at key strategic times, we knew that we could lean on them for more than just media players. They would help us with content scheduling and some of the content management. We also got a huge opportunity to look at how do we protect this digital signage. Before, there was zero protection in place. So if we got a power strike, if lightning hits somewhere, you know, there's a pretty good investment here. We want to be able to protect that investment. So we got the opportunity to work with Surgex and have surge elimination on our bigger pieces, which longer term paid off. The surge suppressors that they provided gave us data, real-life data, that we could pull from them, and we could see when there were power spikes and there were power surges. So we were able to pull that data and get critical information longer term. And the last partner we looked at, you know, we needed something for mounting, but it couldn't just be traditional mounting. We needed mounting that when we did have to service our video walls and our static screens, we needed it easy as possible. So we ended up looking to Peerless AV for that, and they gave us, you know, outstanding. We ended up investing in outstanding wall mounting solutions. So when we do need to rip and replace, or if there was a problem, or we did have to troubleshoot, it wouldn't take the facilities team a day and a half just to take the screen off. We'd be able to pull a few levers and ultimately get to the core of the problem. And speaking of Peerless, I think we have a commercial.
Get in, get done, get it right. That's our philosophy. And everything we do at Peerless AV is designed to ensure that happens. With Peerless AV, you're trusting a company of leading experts with a track record of 60-plus years of solid proof behind you. So why would you mess around with anything else?
There we go. All right, thank you. All right, now in this piece, we're going to hand off to Mark, who acted as our project manager of this program. So now you're going to get a little of the behind the scenes of what it really took to develop a project like this, and longer term how it took to roll it out. So Mark, I'll hand it over to you.
And I kind of want you to watch this because we've had actually a few things like this come up, and actually
Mark?
Your job could end up overlaying, like to help
Mark?
clients
develop pretty sure
media stuff and along.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we're going to
ask you to put your phones on mute.
And showed me that program, and I was messing with that a little bit for Webster.
Joseph.
Yeah, that'd be a good example right there.
I kind of made a couple little quick things that we could put on there, but I have to figure out what they need on there as far as the graphic dimensions. Because when I put it in there,
Joseph, we're going to ask that you mute your phone, please.
But when I bring it over, it's really distorted, so I have to figure out what they need on there.
All right, Mark, are you there? Brzezinski. Can't hear you.
Maybe the call dropped.
All right.
I think Mark's having issues with his phone. I happen to sit next to him right now. I know he's trying to get on the call here.
Okay,
all righty, thank you. That's huge. Thanks. All right, what we'll do is, Kristen, are you there?
Yep.
Kristen, what we'll do is we'll jump into yours. So, Kristen, I'm going to fast forward and go into marketing's role. So, Kristen, can you tell us a little bit about how marketing leveraged this project?
Sure thing. Guys, this is Kristen Grashevsky. At the time, I was the marketing manager for digital signage here at Ingram Micro. So when Tom and Mark kind of approached me, they wanted to have really marketing's buy-in on what we were going to do and how we were going to go about handling this and make sure that we were really on board. And coming from the marketing side of things, this is a huge opportunity for Ingram, so we definitely wanted to get this going. So working with the team and just seeing what we kind of had to have in place before we launched, one of the biggest things that we had always struggled with and still to this day is something that we always work with our customers on is creating good content to go on our screens. So before we even rolled out, we wanted to make sure we had a really good quality content guideline for our customers to use. So we outlined things such as the type of format that you wanted, the size of the font that you wanted, down to even, what type of font you want versus like, sans serif and things like that. That came down to not only the requirements, but the tips and recommendations. Make sure you use high-res images. Some of it seems pretty standard. Other things we got into more detail. The next thing that we had to do from a marketing standpoint was really develop a program and document that program so that everyone understood it. We outlined what the value was for advertising here on campus at Ingram Micro. How many people are you going to see? How often are they going to see it? How long are they going to see it for? We also had to determine what type of ads we were going to sell. Are we going to sell solely static digital signage? Are we going to sell video digital signage? We had to determine how we were going to sell it and the duration at which we were going to sell it. So do you want 15-second display, 30-second display? All of those things were taken into account. And also then we had to determine what the pricing was going to be that we were going to charge our partners. The next thing we had to do was work with facilities on our displays. We worked hand in hand. From a marketing standpoint, we're really great at knowing what locations are going to be best for ROI and get the most visibility. But then as Tom touched on earlier, it's really facilities who could give us the green light on those locations. So making sure that we didn't interfere with fire codes and that we had the electricity that was needed. Together, we really came up with a great solution. The next thing we had to do is before our live date, we had to make sure that all of our displays were pulling applicable content. So working with the media players and checking the channels that were assigned and making sure that if I assigned a Surgex ad to go on one TV, that it was actually pulling on that TV. And we also had to establish a naming convention and label the floor plan accordingly. So the great thing that we did was instead of just saying, the TV in the lower building in the right-hand corner, we actually went through and came up with a standardized naming convention for all of our TVs so that if one goes down, I can simply go to the back of the TV, look at the number, and directly link into the portal that we use for content. And we can troubleshoot, make sure the units aren't defective, and all of those kind of things. Tom, next slide, please. So the other things that we had to take into consideration was educating our customers about the offering. So the primary way that we did this was email communication a couple weeks beforehand, letting them know this is our go live date, here's what you can expect, here's some information, here's the value, here's the pricing, here's who you contact if you're interested in purchasing. We hosted an internal webinar to educate our vendor partners and our internal teams on how to sell it, the value of it, things like that. And finally, we had to go into the portal itself that we're using and make sure that everything was set up to upload our content. So we had to get our login credentials. We had to label all of the displays in the portal so that if we had problems, we could identify which TVs which displays they were. We had to create channels. I know that Tom touched on earlier also that you can do targeted displays. So with the option that we chose for our media players, I can actually, if I am a vendor, I can purchase advertisements and only target the SMB group. So it allows you to have a targeted audience and really customize your message with a strong call to action for the group that you want to touch on. We had to assign display runtimes and channels to each display and ensure that the displays were connected to the portal. Next slide, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
So then we get to our launch and what happened after the launch. So one of the biggest things we always focus on is content. So any content that was submitted is actually verified by our marketing manager, our digital signage marketing manager. So at the time, I was scrubbing content to make sure that it not only met formatting requirements, but it met graphic requirements, so that you don't have blurry images up on the screen and all the images fit on. So we also had to save content following an established naming convention for upload. This is really great because if we ever had someone who wanted to do a pickup of a prior ad or come back and ask questions about something they submitted that they couldn't find information on, we could pull that information based on vendor name or campaign name and date and all of those type of things. We also have to constantly keep an eye on our displays. We have to ensure daily that applicable content is being pulled from the portal and shown on the screens. It doesn't take long. It's just kind of a quick overview. We kind of branch off and do it separately. We notify facilities and our correct internal contact of any defective equipment. So if one of our displays went down, we would work with the team, the applicable team, to get that resolved. And we had to create and order sponsorship plaques for the displays. Next slide,
cool.
Tom. Okay, from a program management perspective, we were responsible for requesting materials for the scheduled ads. So in marketing, the way that we do things, and every company is different, you can schedule ads, a year in advance. So what will happen is, as a program manager, I was responsible for going in and making sure that if you signed up for an ad 6 months from now, that I would keep track of that, and 3 to 4 weeks beforehand start reminding you that your ad is due to get your materials in and things like that. So that's not only requesting the materials, but tracking material receipt and content upload. So once we've received them, we would mark it off on a tracker, we would upload it into the portal, save it with the standard naming convention, and then we would be good to go. The great thing about the media players we chose is, in theory, I can upload things for a year from now. It doesn't matter. I just choose the date that I want it to show up in the future. I can upload it, and then you don't have to worry about it. We also have to ensure that payment is received from a program management standpoint, so tracking your invoice numbers, tracking your SO numbers, things along those lines. We're responsible for monthly accounting, and we had to create and communicate any program promotions. So if we did a special, buy one ad, get one ad free the next week, that is the program manager's responsibility to do that. And in the portal, we had to upload the content and choose the viewing duration. So whether or not it was a day, a week, a month, we had to assign each ad to an applicable channel, which you do right at the start. It's a very easy process. It sounds a little bit more complicated than it is. You had to designate an end date, and you had to ensure that the display was connected in the portal so that when you uploaded new ads, they would actually connect to our network and show up on the screens.
Cool. All right.
And that's it for marketing.
All righty. Well, thank you. That was hugely informational. The longer term and the net of really what marketing is saying, it just wasn't as easy as putting content on the screen and scheduling it. There was far more that was involved that we all had to ultimately learn and become versed in. It's just not flipping a switch and making sure the content's on the screen. There were processes. We had to make sure that the content was formatted correctly, especially in this significant of a rollout. We're going to try Mark one more time. Mark, are you back online with us?
Yes, Tom, I'm here. I had to dial in via my cell phone. We just upgraded our phones here, so I apologize for the inconvenience.
Not a problem at all. Here, what I'll do is I'll swing back.
Can you hear me? Am I coming across loud and clear? Awesome, okay.
You are. You're coming across awesome. All right,
thank you.
Mark, I've got you're all skewed up. So kind of give us a little insight of what it took from the project management standpoint.
Sure. So first of all, Mark Wareski. I'm a senior manager in vendor business. I've been with Ingram Micro. It's coming up on 21 years. The majority of time that I spent here at Ingram was in a sales capacity, specifically responsible for resellers that sell into the federal government and the SLED environment. So first of all, I am not a certified PMP. However, I've had a great deal of experience with large project rollouts with those resellers, rolling out specific solutions into the Department of Defense. Knowing compliance, knowing timelines, logistics, communicating and planning is extremely important when you take on a large project like this. As Tom mentioned earlier, Ingram Micro is the world's largest distributor of IT products. This particular location here in Williamsville, New York, is just outside of Buffalo. We have two specific buildings that are over 200,000 square feet, and we have over 1,500 employees out of our 21,000 worldwide. Here within our campus, we have over 13 business units that consist of both sales and market development. And we also have other departments regarding shared services, specifically human resources, technical support, credit, licensing, IS. So we have a vast group of people that we know that we needed to meet their expectations when it came to delivering our content. Tom mentioned earlier about, making sure we knew about the where, the what, the why, the hows, and the who. The project scope and the business case kind of come together. When we delivered our presentation to executive management, there were numerous things that we wanted to address. One, improve communication across the campus on a larger scale. Example, talking about open enrollment for healthcare, talking about 401k enhancements, and many of the other things that happen here on campus from an Ingram Micro perspective. I think many of our associates would immediately talk about the improvements of what digital signage has done across the campus in terms of its more the look and feel. It improves Ingram Micro's Pro AV branding. One of our goals and initiatives going back was to continue to make sure that our customers, both our reseller partners and our vendors, know that we invest in Pro AV and digital signage. So doing that, we're demonstrating to our customers that we're invested in this particular marketplace. Another great thing about our investment into our campus signage initiative is we look at this investment as an extension of our solution center. Here in Buffalo, we have two specific solution centers. One, a solution center that has over $8 million worth of technology, and our Cisco Experience Center. What we do now is we look at our investment in digital signage as an extension of our solution center, where our business partners or resellers can bring end users to take a look at the infrastructure that we invested in. Tom mentioned earlier about our green initiative. Ingram Micro is a 14,001 green company. Cisco actually went public 2 months ago stating that they were going to use our signage to reduce the number of flyers that they hand out to sales, which is a cost savings for Cisco and improves the environment. So we heard that loud and clear from many of our vendors to cut down on cost of paper. Voice of the business, what are we hearing now currently from our employees and from our vendors? Keep it fresh. As Kristen articulated earlier, how we update the campus signage is on the fly. We have standard operating procedures that are in place that we have relayed to our vendors. They follow it. They're able to get their information up on the campus quite timely. Improve Pro AV and digital signage mindshare and awareness across the organization. As I mentioned earlier, it's a update to our workplace, and it now gives an opportunity for our sales organization to what they see every day when they walk through the doors is to have that on their front mind, to have conversations with customers on how they can position Pro AV and signage solutions. Benefits to our customers. Within our Pro AV digital signage business unit, we look at three specific areas as our customers. Internally, Ingram Micro has over 350 internal sales people here on our Buffalo campus. Having an install of the signage acts as a way that our sales rep can always look to add on or talk to a customer about what, if, or when they would like to build a signage practice. We have the numerous resources, tools, and programs to help them do that. At Ingram Micro, we have, again, our Solution Center where many customers come through on an annual basis. I think the past year we had over 1,500 plus resellers come to our facility to where they get to see now a real-life example of a corporate install. The number of units that we have across our particular organization is actually quite robust. We have, as Tom mentioned, we have 3 video walls. We have over 48 55-inch displays across the campus, as well as 3 65-inch touch displays that are more of an interactive engagement with our customers and our internal employees. I think the number one thing that I have learned with this particular project is without commitment, nothing gets done. As Tom mentioned earlier, we've had old technology, old signage that was installed here within our organization, and it didn't really do what we anticipated it to do. So with a forklift upgrade, we took a lot of time and energy to put together milestones, project schedules, logistics, ensured that we were compliant, and with the commitment of the associates that we had, we were able to finish this project in a timely manner. Tom Jones was, again, our technology solutions engineer. He also acted as a great liaison between other business units or business groups within our organization, specifically our Solution Center and technical support. Kevin Pruitt, who is our executive champion for this project, is our vice president. Kristen, of course, spoke earlier. She was marketing. Myself, and Ken Paluski, who is responsible for our facilities team, did a great job with keeping this project on schedule. Next slide, please.
All right.
The different phases, as we talked about earlier about the technology that was installed. Phase 1 was to install video walls. Phase 2 was the 365-inch touch screens. And then the last phase was to install 38 displays across the campus. Both Tom and Kristen mentioned that it was very, very important for us to work with other groups within the company, specifically facilities. Facilities had the blueprints for us to make sure that the screens that we were going to install were in areas that were going to get the most recognition and the most mind share and the most use. The first few slides that Tom demonstrated, you saw a lot of different vendors that made up the solution, and when we needed to dispose of those particular assets, we used a company called Cloud Blue. In 2013, Ingram Micro acquired Cloud Blue, so we used that particular organization to help us dispose of the displays in a DoD and EPA manner. Our reseller partners have that capability to use Cloud Blue as an asset disposition company when your customers and your end users need to do so. The digital signage requests and requirements around standard operating procedures. We all took the initiative around spare part process, the marketing piece, technical resources, and we generated an ISO type of a document that allows our organization to follow step by step the proper processes and procedures to take care of any type of issues that may arise with our campus signage. For example, if one of our displays, we have an issue with one of the displays and it's faulty, we're able to replace that particular unit via our spare parts process. We have two 55-inch displays that are sitting with facilities. So if one of those displays goes down, we have a spare part. We replace the one that goes bad, put it in the box, send it back to NEC. They will send us another display, so we have always a spare part on hand, so we're never down here within our Buffalo facility. Next phases. This is one phase of many. It's a great end result here within our Buffalo campus. However, we plan to roll out our campus signage initiative with Santa Ana, as well as our advanced logistics centers, as well as Canada and worldwide.
Very nice. Mark, thank you so much for that. Dawn, was there something that you had to say about Samsung?
Thanks, Tom. Samsung's BMD series provides a fully embedded solution to manage digital signage content without connecting external devices. With 24/7 operating runtime, these innovative displays are a highly reliable and highly cost-efficient solution, ideal for retail environments, quick-service restaurants, meeting rooms, public spaces, and more. Please contact your Ingram Micro representative for more information.
Thank you, Dawn. Mark, that was an awesome job. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to flip through where we went through marketing, and I'm going to give you guys the net of what we had. So we talked a lot about what it took from the technology standpoint, what it took from the marketing standpoint, project management. But in the end, once the dust settled, what were the results that we noticed that were tangible, that we can advocate, that we could measure against? Well, in marketing, what we've seen is that there was longer term, there was a huge uptick in participation from advertising campaigns. So we put the signs in, and Mark commented on Cisco's interest. We had over 50 vendors use the digital signage when it first initially rolled out in Q4, which was huge. That's monumental. 50 independent vendors seeing the value in us redoing our digital signage and felt that it was beneficial for their business to advocate on our internal network. And that's huge. That's a massive uptick in participation where we had seen very, very little previously. The following quarter, we realized, and these are just ballpark numbers because we're not able to disclose exact amounts, but about $40K in revenue from just one quarter of digital signage. So again, where we had seen very, very light traffic, we had hit our goal in understanding how to bring ad network into a major corporation and combine that with a communications network. So again, that was huge. Outside of the vendor aspects, we were able to use our digital signage to welcome, resellers, just like the guys that are on the phone today. And the truth is that they love the special attention and the personal touch that they got when they seen their names in big lights. And all of our key high-profile accounts that come in, they get that treatment. They get to see their names in lights. And again, that adds to the warm and fuzzy feeling that you get with doing business with Ingram Micro. Kristen, did I miss anything in marketing? I mean, did you want to add anything or contribute anything to the marketing piece and
No,
the net result?
I think you really covered it really great. Just to touch on the revenue a little bit, guys, keep in mind, too, that when we talk about revenue in this perspective, we're talking about as a one-off program, so buying it individually and purchasing it individually. There are a lot of Ingram Micro campaigns that write digital signage into their campaigns as value adds, so they can charge in their campaigns for it. While the one-off program won't recognize the revenue, so we can't put it in that number, it's still happening in other campaigns and adding value to other solutions and opportunities in Ingram Micro.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. That's huge.
Sure.
So we've seen it, again, not a huge uptick in revenue that we hadn't seen before. In another area that, wasn't really commented on but is near and dear to my heart is tech support. And I interviewed Jay Gron, who's the senior tech support manager who kind of owns the technical support aspect for digital signage. And his feedback was invaluable. What he's seen is that champions within tech support, so a champion is somebody that either owns a help desk or advocates a particular vendor. They're able to recognize visibility throughout the rest of the organization, which means there may have been a point in time where you didn't realize that Ingram Micro had an APC champion or a Lenovo champion. Well, they're able to see that now, and that's spread throughout the rest of the company. So that's bringing value and awareness to what their role is. As some of you may know, we have tech support that's based overseas in Manila. And recently we had the Manila senior manager fly over to take a look and see, how is business done day to day in tech support in Buffalo? And one of the things that he was blown away by was the communication we have internally. But more importantly, we were able to advocate the technicians that are overseas and put names with faces. So we're able to advocate the technicians that are in Manila. And he took pictures to kind of drive that back to say, hey, you know what? You're not only known in your campus here in Manila, you're also known overseas in the U.S. So again, what that does, that promotes teamwork. That advocates, that it is just one big organization. And there's a lot to be said about that. Vendors longer term love their investment in the CHAMP program. And one of the side effects that we noticed is that we're starting to see increased attendance to specific technical support trainings. So what we see is that there's visibility when there's a particular training on a particular day. So we noticed an increase in technical attendance in trainings, which longer term makes our technicians more knowledgeable. Otherwise, they really wouldn't have known what's happening. And as you can see, I'll kind of go back to one of the slides. You know, these are some of the hallmarks. So if you take a look on the right-hand side, that's one of the entrances. But the picture directly under it, you see that we're mixing in news and we're mixing in weather with our digital signage. So it's not just, you know, status quo. We have more current and relevant information that's there. By the same token, we're able to see, one too far. We're also able to see that in tech support, you can put names with faces. You're able to see the technical support menu. And when you walk up to these particular screens and you touch information about it, it gives you more of a story, a name behind the face. And that's something we weren't able to accomplish before. So long term, you know, the end net results were that the campus project was a huge success, and we look forward to replicating that. What we're going to do is we're going to turn the mics on, and we are more than willing to facilitate questions. So what I would say is that if we can unmute the mics, you know, hey guys, on the phone, it's your turn. I mean, if you have particular questions that you'd like to field, we'd love to answer them.
Hey, Tom, there are two questions. There are two questions that came up that I see here that I don't mind asking or answering. Don asked, how long does all the logistics and planning phase usually take? So, Don, after we received final approval from our executives, the first call that we had was on April 21st, 2014. So it took about 4 weeks to really discuss logistics and divvy out pieces of the project to the individuals that I earlier mentioned. Overall, from start to finish, we committed to our executives to have this first phase of Buffalo campus signage completed and fully operational by September 30th, 2014, and we met those expectations. So totally, it was about six months. And of course, the majority of that time and energy came into facilities and the manpower they had to do the installation of the 3 video walls, the 3 65-inch touch displays, and the 38 single displays across the campus.
Nice, thank you.
Hey,
Were there any other questions that were?
Could we go back to slide 20? We missed. I'd like to do a little voiceover for LG.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Just went by that.
Sorry
about that.
That's okay. We went through the slides in a different order. So LG is a forward-thinking company, always bringing new innovation for better business. LG is breaking barriers with its industry-leading digital signage innovations, focusing on cost-effective displays and all-in-one platform that allows businesses to use LG products in a new, exciting way. For more information, contact your sales representative.
Awesome. Thank you. Were there any other questions that anyone's seen that we need to review or we need to address or answer?
I know that in the actual WebEx, Chris had asked to get a list of actual products used for the facility, so we might want to get that to him afterwards.
We can, absolutely. Yeah, we can. We have a bomb of of the exact models and things that we use. So yes, we can do that. So yeah, that's not, you know, that's pretty easy disclosable. So that's fair. Were there any other questions or comments or anything that anyone's seen online that we should address? Or
Okay, then before we go, I want to announce the winner of our $100 Amex gift check. It is Herbert Guth with Global Quest Solutions. So Herbert, I'll be reaching out to you and getting your information to get that gift check over to you. Congratulations.
Herbert, thank you for sticking on, and thank you all for your patience during our minor technical issues. We hope that you enjoyed this, and we look forward to our next webinar. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.